Super Junior Tag League began today at Korakuen Hall, although not many people seem to have noticed. With only 10 mostly thrown together teams and 5 league matches each, this tournament doesn't have a lot of buzz. There are probably going to be some good matches, though. We're going to take a look at the first night of action, look ahead to a very busy week as far as shows go, and talk about what we might expect as the tournament rolls on, plus any other news that comes up. So with Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway, and this is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's Jeremy. I'm Steven. We are contributors to the Fight Game Media Network. So, Jeremy, this week we had a nice little show in Taichi's hometown, which we're going to talk about a little bit. Night one of the Super Junior tournament. Otherwise, fairly quiet week in New Japan news. How did you spend your week? What did you do?
I did a lot of spring cleaning in the fall. In all honesty, okay. I did a lot of reorganizing around the house. I watched that Taichi show. I watched the show today, and speaking of the fall and carnival season, you ever have cotton candy?
Yeah, I totally understand. It was not the most consequential week, but there was
a lot of fluff this week, man.
Yeah, and we're going, like I said, we're going to talk about that Taichi show. There were a lot of feel-good moments in that show overall, sure. And then an interesting show at Korakuen today, maybe for who wasn't there than for who was, but and I by that I mean a crowd. But we'll examine it. As far as the rest of my week went, though, I took some time to catch up on a few things. Okay. I watched some Marigold getting ready for their big show at Sumo Hall coming up this weekend. I was excited to see a little bit of Stardom, watch a New Blood event, and I also keep in mind I'm a big baseball fan, so World Series is starting. Okay. We saw all the championship series wrap up. NBA season has begun. So just in general sports, I'm having a pretty good time.
Betting is more popular than ever, apparently.
Well, yeah, certainly in the NBA, isn't it? That is going to be a holy mess.
Okay. I was watching a clip of ESPN where they're literally talking about it, and they have the Bet ESPN scroll underneath, and then it suddenly just disappears.
Yeah,
they're talking about it. Yeah. All these companies are complicit, man. The temptation, the urge. Oh, it's just one bet. Once you get a deal, and then it's just like, oh man, these betting companies are telling on themselves. They're like, we got to flag this before anybody thinks that we're in on it too.
Now, one of the things I'm proud of, Jeremy, is that almost about one third of our audience is not from the United States. It is from overseas and things. And I'm very proud of that. And USVA guys here, Esteban, glad to see you. He says, way to go, Bet ESPN. We're going to talk about that. Colin is here, of course. Colin's asking, did I catch any of the London Sumo tournament? I have seen a few clips. It looks like the guys are having fun with it. It's more of an exhibition than what we normally see in the tournaments. I think they're making sure they don't get hurt for the quote unquote real stuff, but they are entertaining the crowds. Jeremy, it's kind of they're kind of working together almost to do rarely seen sumo moves on one another to kind of show off a little bit for the crowd. It's an interesting exhibition that they're doing with all the sumo guys, but it's also fun to see the sumo wrestlers moving around London, like 4 of them lined up like the Beatles on the Abbey Road cover at that crosswalk. So they reenacted the Abbey Road cover with sumo guys, a couple of them on tandem bikes rolling around parks in London, which is always fun, taking pictures with the bobbies and on horseback by Buckingham Palace. So they look like they're enjoying their trip.
I will tell you, at some point this past week, somebody mentioned to me their interest in sumo was growing. And it had everything to do with your advocacy of them on this show.
Oh, this makes me so happy. It's exciting.
I'm like, oh, what's going on with this sumo stuff? Oh, you mean like the Yokozuna stuff? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I heard about the show. I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about it. You got to talk about it.
Well, I'll be happy to help.
Speaking of shameless self-promotion, if we're going to do that, I actually did the recap for the AEW Wrestle Dream show, which is technically the Inoki tribute show, but that really just had to do with one guy grabbing a towel at the end of his match and doing the sign and the collar, the scarf. But I did a review of the show with Garrett Gonzalez, and you can find it on the same video channel and the audio feed that you can find this on. And show was fine. I think there are a lot of people that love AEW and want to like cheer it up as much as possible, but it was missing Swerve, it was missing Ospreay, missing MJF.
A lot of injuries in that roster.
A lot of injuries. A lot of matches went a little too long. Didn't need to go too long. Some of them went so long that the next matches had no chance of getting any heat because they took all of it. But it was just that kind of thing. It was an indulgent but a pure AEW show. So if you want to check that out, you can find that on the Fight Game Media channel as well.
Cool. And just so I noted to circle back, for the folks outside the United States, big scandal has hit the National Basketball Association here in the United States, in that an active head coach and an active player from different teams have been arrested for point shaving, fixing games, illegal betting, being part of an illegal poker game that involved cheating by the mob.
The Italian mafia?
Yeah, you haven't heard those names in a few years, have you? We're back talking about Gambinos and Genoveses and all this stuff. So Martin Scorsese is warming up the band here to do another movie about this. But it is a betting scandal within the NBA that has also encompassed some former players. There's undoubtedly current players, although Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, is scrambling as we speak, right here live, trying to cover up any involvement of current players, because he's desperate to keep throw the other players under the bus and say, well, Rozier for Miami was dirty, we've kicked him out, and he's under arrest now, and then those other guys aren't in the league anymore. Everything's fine. It's all fine. It's all fine. But clearly there's a huge betting and shaving scandal going on. It looks like, Jeremy, it is involving a lot of guys faking injuries to get themselves taken out of games early, thus ensuring anyone who bet the under on their points scored. Or
how stupid can these guys be?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you can argue a head injury and it doesn't really show up, does it? And a couple of guys did that, like, I got hit in the head, I'm a little foggy, and they get themselves taken out of the game, and then anyone who bet the under on them scoring, say, 20 points if they go out early, wins their bets. They're fixing things.
You know how they got caught? They got caught by being greedy and betting too large. And the casino flagged it. And you're just like, greed and stupidity will get you in the end.
all the time. And there have been point shaving scandals before in college basketball a lot. So, and of course, we've had a dirty referee in the NBA. So all this stuff. And what USVA guy was referring to earlier, what you referred to earlier, is Bet ESPN. That's one of the biggest sports books online there is, by ESPN. So ESPN is talking about, oh, this is awful, they're fixing games, and at the bottom of the screen is an ad for their betting service, which started looking really conflict of interesty until all of a sudden, like you mentioned, that abruptly just vanished off the bottom of the screen where it usually is. So it was pretty funny.
So between that and the salary cap subversion scheme that seems to be happening with the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, and several $1 million of almost no work whatsoever, Adam Silver probably aged about 10 years in the last 6 months.
And he didn't look so good before. And for the most part, I've liked him, but he's got a real problem this year. He's got a real problem.
My impression of him has gone significantly downhill within the last year. And fair enough. It just seems like his interests are aligning more with the big money than it does seem with the sanctity of the league.
Nick Reeves is here with us again. Nick, I'm glad you're here again, live with us.
You had a good trip, buddy.
Yeah, I hope so too. He says, just as I picked this season to get back into the NBA, all hell breaks loose. Indeed it did. And he says, still need to catch up on Junior Tag League. Well, that's fair enough. You only have one show missed right there, but he wanted to say hi. He spent his flight back from Vegas a few days ago watching Noah's July 05 Tokyo Dome show. Nice. Didn't expect Tanahashi to be on it. There was a very young Tana on that. Yeah, very young Tana on that one. So he popped up. This is again when the companies were working together a lot. And when things were not great and they were doing things to help each other out, Noah was probably in better shape than New Japan at the time. But a very young Tanahashi. There's some really old Tanahashi matches that just pop
Mm-hmm.
back up. If you notice that on the crawl of NJPW World, they've always been on it, but they're featuring them, putting the tile up there just underneath the new stuff. And stuff that goes all the way back to him wrestling Shinya Makabe before he was Togi Makabe and things. So you can see a very young Ace back then. If you want to, you can go back and see that. Yeah. And let's see what else. Oh, I want to mention this as far as wrestling goes, Jeremy. I am not saying that I've been watching a lot of CMLL, but all of my YouTube ads are now in Spanish. Whenever it cuts to commercial now, it's in Spanish each time, whether I'm watching CMLL or not. So they're so sure now that I'm either in Mexico or that that I speak Spanish fluently. That all my ads, even when I'm watching something that has nothing to do, if I'm watching old Japanese wrestling, it shows me an ad in Spanish. That's how much CMLL I've been taking a look at lately.
Yeah, you living in Texas, you might check off some demographics that aren't actually correct. So just be careful there.
Well, the good news is my Spanish is improving to go with my Japanese. So I'm working on all of it right there. And we are going to talk about this now, and we've got other stuff here. So before we get into these shows, like you mentioned, this isn't the most captivating storyline week in New Japan history. So, but we are going to get into some stuff. Colin mentioned this. The Tanahashi and Nakamura headlines. Let's go ahead and get into that. We also have Stardom and CMLL working together. So Jesse Hyde mentions this. The Tanahashi and the WWE could be talking about Nakamura and Tanahashi final match at Wrestle Kingdom 20 because the Tanahashi final match opponent announcement will be talked about. And we expect news on that fairly soon, probably at the Gifu show or shortly thereafter, Jeremy. What we have heard is that, first of all, it's highly unlikely, is the phrase I was using on that the WWE would let him go ahead and do that if he is still under contract to WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that there have been discussions, but it's still a fairly long shot. What's your impression of what you've heard regarding Shinsuke Nakamura, his status with WWE, and a possibility of him being Tanahashi's final opponent at Wrestle Kingdom 20?
Okay, so you and I, probably about 5 months ago, whittled down a list of 5 people that could possibly be Tanahashi's final opponent. And that
would make for interesting ones. Not the only 5 people that could do it, but yeah.
That list has gotten very much smaller the last couple of weeks.
Yes,
that list included Ibushi. It included Omega. It included Naito. It included Okada. And the dark horse 5% chancer was Nakamura because of the WWE alignment with Noah, because of the AEW relationship, just for a variety of reasons. It just wasn't going to work out. Right. Now, we had talked about it on the show that WWE was coming to Sumo Hall this past weekend. It came up when the Io Sky is going to have 3 big matches at Sumo Hall this month, which was basically the impetus of that conversation. But Nakamura was also there. He was a babyface. And while he was there, he emulated the Tanahashi goodbye at the show. And then Tanahashi reacted on social media. And that began questions among people trying to figure out what was going on. The prevailing rumor by about Friday afternoon Pacific evening time was that it was more of a possibility than ever that Nakamura could do this. The reason for that being is, yes, he is still under contract with WWE. But he had provisional rollouts that allowed him carve out to wrestle in Japan if he wanted to request it for whatever reason. That still required WWE approval. This is what I was basically given to understand. So we are at an impasse here where Nakamura wants to do it. The company, New Japan, is very quietly trying to make this happen. And I don't want to say anything more because I don't want to be the kind of person that jeopardizes this by talking about it too much. You know what I mean? Like, this is very clearly Tanahashi, Nakamura, and WWE having this negotiation. When Fightful was doing an article about the boys, like not thinking this happened, they can think it might not happen, but I'm very skeptical that that conversation is at that level of the promotion and not at the secret top level. So my understanding is that Nakamura is on the board. It's not likely, but it's possible, with Okada being the fallback. So
yeah,
that's where we're at. It's not like over 50% that it's Nakamura. It's more like it was 5%, and now we're in the 30 to 40%, but it's a very interesting 30 to
40%. It's a real challenge. USVA guy kind of hits it in the head. There are massive politics in play with Nakamura.
Absolutely.
Especially if he's still under WWE contract, looks like he's going to be. Otherwise, I don't think all this yapping would be necessary. He could just go out of contract and then decide if he wants to do the show or not. The issue comes that WWE has shown zero proclivity to help anybody else except the companies that it's already working with, maybe have an eye on acquiring at some point.
So what would they want?
Well, I don't think there is anything that New Japan could give them that they would want that would help them, and that in a way that would make them want to do it, which is why I'm still leaning hard toward this not happening. I would love for it too. I just don't see anything that New Japan could offer WWE that would get it to them. And here's what I'm saying on that. They have worked with Noah. So they send talent to Noah for some international experience. Charlie Dempsey.
Tank and Tank are heading off, sure.
Yeah, I think Charlie Dempsey was over there at Wrestle Odyssey, and they have some people that have worked with them before. Noah on the women's side, they work with Marigold, of course. Io Sky and Mayu Iwatani is coming up this weekend. They have allowed people to go over and work with Rossi and Marigold. They have allowed people to go over there. Nothing has come back the other way. And so that's kind of who they work with. And of course, AAA, I've talked about what I think their plans are for AAA, which is to get it a TV deal on one of the Spanish language networks in the United States and not try to compete with CMLL because it's a different business model. But if they can get a pretty fat TV contract to air some Lucha Libre programming on Spanish language television, I think they'll jump at that chance. They've had their eye on Japanese companies before. The key with Noah, it's tricky because Noah's parent company is actually larger than Bushiroad. If you look at the conglomerate that owns Noah, which also owns a couple other wrestling companies, that company is huge, bigger than Bushiroad. So you have to kind of convince them to take it off their hands. It's not like they can just write a big check and turn their heads. I suppose they could, but it would take a fairly big one and right now Noah is actually warming up. So it's a bit on the upswing compared to previous years. So it doesn't seem like that's in the works. They might acquire, but it does seem like global domination is the obvious goal for WWE, always has been, but it seems more in reach than it is before. So I don't see any motivation from WWE's side whatsoever to help New Japan. What would that be? And don't tell me talent. They don't care. They just grow their own.
No, everybody, this is all politics, like Esteban said. But, okay. We got it like this. WWE, if they were to say yes, has an opportunity to position themselves as the one that is the bigger benefactor to New Japan during their biggest show, while AEW is providing Takeshita on their end. Number one, that just hear me out here. Hear me out here. Their big timing of Tony, while Tony Khan, he has every reason to be upset. And he had every reason to be like, well, this sucks. But at the same time, you have seen him in the past in the sanctity of respecting wrestling legacies, doing things that make no sense, like giving footage to WWE to tribute other wrestlers in the last couple of years when WWE is not doing anything like that. He bent over backwards to make Tanahashi the focal point of that forbidden door. I am not willing to say that Tony will flat out not accommodate this event for Tanahashi and just kind of parlay and take like a shot from WWE over in Japan and just be the respectable partner from AEW that is honoring Tanahashi like he has tried to do this entire time, while WWE is going to use this as an opportunity to like take shots at Tony and make them look like the smaller partner, or that they're the bigger like fish in this whole Tanahashi scenario, whereas it could in their mind make Tony look smaller. And they are very petty, and they won't do anything to undercut Tony Khan in any way on any forum for whatever reason. And that is the only X factor for me as to why WWE might possibly agree to this, is that it'd be a way to stick it to Tony Khan.
I just don't think they care all that much, and they especially might not need
Tony.
to. Oh, sure they do, but they do. But I think WWE might also look at it like this: if we put one of our wrestlers on this show that also has AEW wrestlers on it and also has New Japan wrestlers on it, it is in WWE's eyes. Keep in mind, I'm talking about what is being discussed in the halls in Stamford, Connecticut. If we put our guy on this show, all we're doing is saying that these cute little wrestling companies are on our level when they're not. And I think that by doing that, and they say, "Oh yeah, you're worthy of being in compared to or equal to WWE," and I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they want to do that. I think that they consider it below them to do it, and it's just one of those things where I just don't see them doing anything to help anybody that's not beholden to them. I mean, they'll help TNA, but they kind of need TNA a little bit. You know, we mentioned that they need TNA to keep some of the regulators off their backs. I just don't see any motivation to stick it to Tony Khan. Maybe, but they're sticking it to Tony Khan in a very, very different and much more important way.
They'll do it in any way that they can.
Yeah,
like they are pouring money and throwing money away just to like make Tony Khan's life miserable. And they will look for any way to just make it more difficult for him to run his business, including interfering with his participation in Wrestle Kingdom. And I think that New Japan rightfully should be selfish in this case and do everything they can to get as much star power. And if Nakamura is on that show, he's in the main event and he's winning. So it's not even like an optic of anything other than that. Like there's no Takeshita's in the main event here. Like everything about it is going to make AEW looking like the number 2 to WWE at the biggest event in Japan in years. That's where I think this strategy is coming from. It is a big timing effort, and they see an opportunity to do so. And again, this is like 30 to 40% possibility. Yeah. This is not like 75 to 80. But if you're looking for a reason, if you're looking for why, the reason would be it's whatever would give WWE an advantage. Like they're not altruistic. They're not a giving company. They're gonna want something. And if that price is something New Japan is willing to pay, they're gonna do it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a dollar figure for that or anything. And Nick Reeves has it. He said the potential to drive some sort of political wedge between NJPW and AEW is the only thing I could see WWE getting out of this. But again, I don't think WWE cares. The money they're making, the money that New Japan brings, the money that AEW brings in, it's a pittance to TKO and WWE. And it aligns with how petty they've been toward AEW this year in particular. Sure. Yeah, I mean, but here in this country, I just don't know if New Japan even registers on the radar like that. Nick just says if the goal is to simply stick it to Tony, then utilizing Shinsuke, who they don't put on TV anymore, is a low-risk way to do it. It feels very much in line with their current approach to AEW. Well, you guys might be right. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm trying to figure out the motive. I always look at things with WWE. It was like, how does it help them? Because it's the only way they think.
Yeah, that is 100% what I've been thinking. And
I just don't see anything that they would, not anything they would bother with.
I mean, I had this conversation with Dave, and I was just like, if WWE is going to let Nakamura do this, because that's what it comes down to, is Nakamura can request it, like it's legally in his contract. WWE has to approve it, but like, why would they approve it? If they have to approve it, they're going to want something out of it. And that's the part where you really have to get to the nitty gritty of like, what are they gonna want?
Yeah, and like, how does putting Nakamura on the show help or hurt? Excuse me. I understand the idea that they're very petty toward AEW and they're doing things that might even cost them money in order to hurt AEW because they think long term that's the better play if there is not another company that can match the salary structure. That's the one thing Tony Khan can do that can mess up WWE is he can affect the salary structure. He gives people another place to go, so they have to pay the wrestlers more to keep them, right? So getting rid of him is optimum. TNA, perfect. Another company that is of absolutely no threat to them financially, and they can't affect the salaries. They can't drive them up. The thought on that is, how would sending Nakamura there hurt AEW? Which is the only question you really need to ask. And I just don't see an answer for that in a way that WWE would say, yeah, let's do it. I just don't. How would sending him over there to be part of this big show, and Chris Charlton was saying almost 30,000 tickets sold. How would having him there hurt AEW? If winning the main event, no one, who cares? That's not the point, is it? It's all about how can you hurt their money. And
if WWE with their reach gets footage from the Tokyo Dome of Nakamura in the main event, and they start talking about how they drew, like how they helped draw like a record.
Nakamura drew 30,000 people.
Yes, like.
But who cares? Totally, like, how does that help anything in the United States
because
or anywhere else?
When people start talking about it, they're like, oh, they're big in Japan. It's just one more little thing that big time of them and makes all other wrestling in North America seem small.
My guess is in Stamford, they're eventually going to come around to the idea of sending our guy there legitimizes this. And they're just not going to end up doing it. That's my guess. I would love to be wrong. I'd love for Nakamura to be on this show. I would love it. I hope I'm wrong, but I've been watching WWE since I was 8 years old, and I kind of know what kind of I know what kind of beast I'm looking at here, and what I'm dealing with, and I'm just going on 40 plus years of their actions on things. They don't help other people out. They just don't.
God's honest truth. I would much rather see Nakamura than Tanahashi. Like, I really do hope that they can work something out and we get that match, because I think that's a better match.
Him coming out to his old music. Oh God, his old music was so good in New Japan too.
With that said, if it were to be Okada and Tanahashi, I think that match is going to be pretty special too.
Sure. Yeah. Okada might actually try. It'll be the first time in a
while. He had a couple of bangers this week. The guy stepped into the office for a little while.
Yeah. Colin's asking about Stardom and CMLL working together. Well, this is a Bushiroad company, New Japan's Bushiroad. So yeah, Stardom and CMLL are going to be exchanging talent, trying to expand women's wrestling. Now it is basically Women's Wrestling Month with CMLL. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. They have the pink ropes. They had an all-women's show. FWC from Stardom, Hazuki and Koguma, one of the best tag teams on earth, is over there touring. And they're going to be working together. So we've seen some of this with Persephone being over there, Tabata, who I think is Juvia's daughter or something like that. Anyway, I might be getting some of that wrong, but going over there and wrestling for Stardom, and then some more of the Stardom women going over there. It's just healthy. I think it's just good for everybody to get some international experience. And I think that's great. Right now, women's wrestling is the one part of wrestling, along with Noah right now in Japan, that seems to be have a little momentum. The Joshi scene far more than Noah, but that's been in great shape for a lot of the year and on the upswing. I'm curious to see, Jeremy, what Marigold does. The two WWE super shows, Sumo Hall, from the photographs I saw, looked about half full. 4,000 or so, maybe 5. I don't know. Doesn't look like as many as we're at King of Pro Wrestling. Looks like a little bit more than we're at Wrestle Odyssey, the Noah show. I'm very curious to see where Marigold lands and all that. It's not often we get to do apples and apples with all these shows in the same building from all these different companies in the same month, but we're kind of getting a snapshot of where the industry is in Japan right now. And then War Hero says post WWE in currently recruiting Japanese wrestlers from the women's. Yeah, there's there's just a lot of there's just a hell of a lot of talent in the Joshi scene right now, and young talent. So I'm encouraged by the CMLL Stardom partnership. I think that it's funny, Jeremy. I remember only a few years ago that the women's match on a CMLL show was to be tolerated more than enjoyed, and that wasn't terribly long ago. And then these women have upped their game so much. Stephanie Vaquer was certainly a big part of that, coming in just so preternaturally talented. And then other people just seem to catch their mojo off of that. And people like Juvia, people like Zeusis and Reina Isis just up their games. They just so much better than they were only a few years ago. And then the younger women coming up are better. One tour in Stardom will raise your level because the depth of talent in Stardom, iron will sharpen that iron. And then you bring that back to Mexico, and now you have improved luchadoras coming back and working with other up-and-coming female wrestlers in Mexico. And as long as that iron continues to sharpen iron, everyone's going to get better. So I think it's a really intelligent move for both companies right now.
Yeah, I think the synergy really does manage to, like a rising tide lifts all ships. I was really surprised when I saw the announcement, and then I was like, actually, no, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like they were at the Tokyo Dome this past year, the CMLL and the Stardom and wrestling for the title and the 4-way. And I think this is going to be good for everybody involved. And I think the strong style that they do at the Joshis, coming to Mexico and learning the lucha and the lucha back and forth, is really going to elevate both of them. And what do you think? Are they doing excursions? Are they going to have like long-term talent, or is it more just going to be like a person here, a person there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more like that. The women don't go on excursion the way the New Japan Young Lions do. The idea of going on excursion is kind of a men's thing. It's certainly more of a New Japan thing than anybody else.
Right.
All Japan doesn't even really do it. Noah sometimes does it. They just sent somebody over to NXT for a little while.
Just,
and he just
such a unique opportunity in 2025 . Like it's not completely out of the question. Like you just trade talent for a little while.
Yeah, and I think for swings, you can. The one good thing, well, there are a lot of good things, but one of the good things about working for CML is they run almost every night, so it's not a wasted trip. Like FWC is working like 5 nights a week on this swing out through there, and working Guadalajara and Arena Coliseo and through Puebla and all these little all the arenas that CMLL owns. There's a lot of work there. And it's just a way to kind of give the fans somebody different to see. So, and like you said, expose them to different styles. Again, the depth of Stardom is such that they could go without a few people for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however long they want to do it. I don't see people going on excursions, spending a year over there, because Stardom just doesn't do that. Right. But going over there for sending a trio out to take a tour and do trios matches around, I think that would be healthy for everybody. And then they have a lot of tournaments in Stardom. There's the 5-star Grand Prix is the most famous one, but they also have the women's tag tournament. They have a trios tournament. They have the Cinderella tournament. Having a CMLL representative there is good. It's somebody who can, frankly, take some losses that maybe the Stardom people don't have to take, and just get that experience over there. Anna Jay worked in Japan for a little while, and we saw what it did for Megan Bain, and of course for who's now Blake Monroe, and it always helps.
Mariah May,
but it's Blake Monroe now. But it's I think it's going to be more of a talent exchange than any long excursion. Tabata was over for about a month working for Stardom, and
yeah, I mean, if like Reina Isis or Persephone, you know what I mean, or Luvia, like goes over there for like a spell, probably be pretty fun. You know what I mean? Like put a tag team together, like give them a run, do something like that. Just get a couple of reps in there, and it just, like I said, a rising tide. Let's call ships. And I think CMLL in particular is really taking advantage of like synergizing with Stardom, with AEW, with New Japan, while AAA just, sold itself to WWE. And some people are staying and some people are going.
Yeah, and very different circumstances, right? I mean, the families that own...
But that's the two directions the wrestling world is going.
No, you're absolutely right.
And then there's like a unification of promotions in order to, buoy yourself and give people a reason to like, hey, you'll have an opportunity to go to this promotion here. You'll have an opportunity to wrestle here. You have more than one way to get to the big time.
And let's look at one other thing as we talk about the landscape in pro wrestling, because it'll also affect New Japan as well. And that is that Warner Brothers Discovery is for sale. They've hung the for sale sign out. They have openly said that we are looking to sell Warner Brothers. This is one of the biggest movie studios in Hollywood history, the Warner Brothers Studio. It also involves HBO Max, which is a big streaming service. And of course, we're in this middle of the streaming service wars as these companies try to parse each other out. But for the wrestling industry, the important thing is Warner Brothers Discovery owns TNT and TBS, the two companies that carry AEW. Here's why this could be absolutely critical. The most likely suitor for buying WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, this whole massive entertainment conglomeration, right now, the odds are unfavored is Paramount Plus, which is another old school Hollywood studio, Paramount Pictures, that has evolved and has been bought by a whole bunch of people. Point being, we've talked on the show before about how one of the more clever things that WWE has done is cut off pathways to new talent for AEW and try to cut off new talent. There's another thing going on. They have signed deals with ESPN. So that's Disney, ABC. That's all under the same parent company. So they have all their PLEs are going to ESPN. They already have a deal with Netflix. All right. They already have a deal with Paramount Plus. Now, TKO does, not WWE, but UFC, which the company also owns. They have a deal with Universal, which is Comcast owned NBC. So ABC, Paramount, CBS, NBC, all the major networks right now have something going on with WWE. That's SmackDown is on the Universal stations, USA Network. That's owned by Universal. With that, of the major players, Jeremy, Warner Brothers Discovery and Amazon, which has a video streaming service, Amazon Prime, and Apple, which isn't considered a major, it's more of a boutique streaming service that has like prestige programming and some sports. There aren't a lot of suitors left that aren't in bed with TKO. If Warner Brothers Discovery is bought by Paramount Plus just married UFC for a huge amount of money. A lot of times these deals say, we are your exclusive provider of these types of shows. If Paramount Plus buys Warner Brothers Discovery, there's TKO that could either exert contractual pressure or requirements, or at least political pressure to dump AEW because it is competing with something that is already on Paramount, which is a TKO company. If that happens, there aren't many places for AEW to go. And we're already seeing the ratings drop because of this new way of counting ratings for everybody. SmackDown took an ass whooping. AEW has taken an ass whooping with the way these ratings. So already wrestling looks less valuable overall. We'll see how that shakes out long term. But the ratings have gone down since they started changing the way these things are counted. And that's what everyone's looking at. So it's going to affect the next TV negotiations. If Paramount Plus buys Warner Brothers Discovery, a lot of ifs, if they do that and TKO puts that pressure on, the only place left, Jeremy, is Amazon. And if they don't want wrestling, there's nowhere really for AEW to go. No, and that to me is the biggest existential threat right now to AEW is that they might not have a TV provider in a short period of time. And that's a little spooky and that's going to affect the entire wrestling industry because it's the goal of WWE to run him out, to run Tony out of here so that he stops raising people's prices and they can control contracts again, like they used to back in the good old days when they were a monopoly. From WWE standpoint, So there's some things going on that could have real domino effects, including New Japan. They're in an alliance with AEW. If AEW goes away, they lose their foothold in North America again.
But they would get Takeshita.
They get Takeshita. And we get Ishii back.
That was the pivot to explain why this is even relevant to New Japan before we go off on a tangent that has nothing to do with New Japan. So,
well, it could have everything to do with that.
It could, but like the conversation here is twofold. One, you say that WWE is everywhere, but WWE is also overextending itself. You know, they have a platform where you need a cable package to watch SmackDown. I don't even know how much a cable package costs, but I do know that when I had Sling, it cost me $55 for the basic package to watch cable. And the only thing that I was watching was WWE SmackDown. Currently, there is no way to watch it the next day without some type of subscription or link to USA Network, which the indoor price for that is substantial. So you have that to get in. If you are not watching ESPN or do not have interest in an ESPN app, but only watching it for WWE, that is another $30. Right?
Yeah. ESPN service about $30 a month now. Yeah.
If you want Netflix, the base price of that is now $10, basically.
And that's with ads. If you want it without ads, it's a heck of a lot more.
You're going up even higher. So you are almost nearing $100 without even taking into account Peacock with Saturday Night's Main Event and or the NXT pay-per-views. The one thing that AEW has is that they can offer any streaming service all of their properties. So if they want to have a TV deal with the pay-per-view, that is something that is going to be very attractive to a streaming service that is in seek of existing IP that they can then parlay to get subscribers.
Okay, Jeremy, but I'm going to ask you, who?
No, but I'm saying like Paramount, the landscape in a year, in 2, in 3,
Paramount's gone.
when all this changes, you know, like there may be an interest in Paramount, like, hey, you have UFC. That's not pro wrestling. If we want pro wrestling, we're going to get pro wrestling. WWE, you do not tell us what to do. We are here to make money, and if we can make a deal, not if like they go to a lawyer and say that like UFC is not the same kind of property as a pro wrestling. Like
doesn't matter if it does not matter if TKO has in the contract that we are your MMA pro wrestling, and they remember in the contracts they're non-competes. We learned this with Andrade. Their non-competes stipulate that he can't even go into MMA.
I'm sorry, I do not want to equate the contracts that wrestlers do with the lawyers versus the TV deals that they do that are going through like nuts and bolts. You know, like there were things in those contracts with Peacock before it went to ESPN, like qualifiers and opt-outs and all of these things. They're so complex that I would be shocked if like a streaming company handcuffed themselves from being able to acquire another IP because one of the companies on their service already said, oh, hey, we have a problem with that. They are not in charge of their streaming service. If these companies are like collecting IP, like baseball cards, like Paramount and Amazon and Netflix are all kind of doing, you know, like they're not going to have a company come in and say, oh, no, you can't get that IP. They will.
Unless they signed a contract that says that you don't get that we are your exclusive provider of pro wrestling and MMA content.
WWE was fighting to get these deals signed, you know, ahead of time. I would be shocked if they had carve out to their advantage that said that they could like put themselves in that position. I know that WWE seems like the big fish in a lot of ponds, but they are not the big fish when it comes to these streaming services.
But the UFC and all that is perceived as a big time product, and especially with how much Paramount just paid for them. I'm just saying the waters are getting treacherous for AEW. Right
Absolutely.
Now.
Absolutely. But the part to me is the opportunity for them to provide a one and all opportunity for their product to be on a platform, being exclusive to that platform theoretically, and being the only way. And that is their value. Instead of farming out and trying to maximize to all these different properties, if they can find one that will pay them a lot of money and do that, that's all that they need. And it is far more reasonable than thinking that they were going to put Dynamite in one place, Collision in another place, when Shockwave was a dream at one point on Fox TV in another place, and then the pay-per-view somewhere else. They're all on HBO Max.
Fox doesn't want wrestling. Fox had wrestling and didn't want it. They even went. They had a higher rate.
It was more of a joke that Shockwave was ever viable.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying that there aren't that many other suitors. There aren't that many people that want wrestling.
Yes,
and it's one of those things where and especially AEW, which is considered among a lot of people that don't know, that aren't wrestling nerds and that follow this stuff hard, they just look at it as like that's minor league WWE. It's not it's that other company. And so are they going to want what they perceive as second tier wrestling, that company that's less popular than WWE? And we want the number one guys, not the number two guys. And so it's treacherous.
The idea of it being a second-rate pro wrestling company is second to the idea that it is a familiar, proven IP that can make money.
Yeah, and we're just seeing that it's falling off about 100,000 viewers every single year over year.
But even a bad pay-per-view is probably going to draw over 100,000 viewers, and that's a good chunk of change. Maybe. Yeah, I think it probably did over 100,000. Most of them are doing 125, 120, 125,000 buys. So if it hit 100,000, I think that's probably a success. I'd guess 105, 110.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of these companies are just, I think a lot of people just don't want to be in the business too. I mean, it's clear. I mean, Fox just got out of it, and Amazon's never really shown any interest in pro wrestling so far. It really hasn't, of having it on the service and things. And they're starting to go into sports. That could always change.
Would you rule out Apple TV?
Yeah, especially because that's not they're a prestige network, and wrestling is still considered pretty lowbrow. And they just got Formula One. They're not going to pro wrestling. That just seems a little lowbrow for Apple.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Well, and keep in mind one other issue with Apple TV. They make phones. Their job is not to run a movie studio. It's a whole different business model at Apple. It is just something to help sell their phones, and they don't need it to make money, and it doesn't. So that's a bit of a different ball game than that. They've just shown no interest in a lot of things. You would think they've shown. They didn't show interest in the NFL because they can't have all of it. So, I mean, they could afford it. Apple could afford it.
It was a possible option when you were looking for other options. And I said, what about Apple TV? It's not impossible, but it's probably unlikely.
Not a lot of suitors is all I'm saying. It's going to be a very different wrestling landscape in a few years there, especially after Warner Brothers sells.
It's always a different wrestling landscape. Before Raw went to Netflix, it was a different wrestling landscape. WWE ruled all on TV, and now it's really kind of murky just how many people are watching WWE at all times.
Yeah,
it seems like there's a lot of people walking, but you can't really tell anymore.
Yeah, the issue is if this contract comes up and Warner Brothers Discovery is like, well, according to these numbers over here, fewer people are watching you than we thought when we signed that last deal, and fewer people are watching. I mean, their audience, no matter how you count the people, has dropped. Under the old system, they were dropping about 100,000 viewers every single year of existence. They're down to about 500,000 now, when it was around 900,000 to 1 million. So their audience is almost dropped in half. Don't tell me that people are watching on Max. That's bullshit. They are not. If that many people were watching on Max that they say they were, if that percentage of the audience were watching on Max, Max would be shouting it from the heavens. There would be nothing except Max bragging about this incredible audience that they're getting on here, and they don't. That's all you need to know. It's absolute garbage that there's like 30% of their audience is on Max, please. The other thing is, so the audience is dropping year after year after year. Now they have this whole new way of counting ratings that shows even fewer people might have been watching the whole time. If Max comes up there and just says, well, we're not going to pay you what we were paying you last time, you didn't deliver the audience that we thought you were going to deliver, and then they can't come to an agreement. They might not have a choice but to either sign a smaller deal or be in bad shape, because if Warner Brothers just decides, yeah, this isn't as valuable as we thought it was, and never minds the whole thing, all it takes is a change of executive to do that. And they're going to have that if they merge.
Might have burst at some point.
Yeah. And then, but if Amazon doesn't want them and Apple doesn't want them, there's nowhere to go.
This is correct. But there's also the only other thing is, like, there may be a point where that bubble will burst for WWE as well, and all of these services that are like going wild for them, and that could open up something for other promotions as well.
Perhaps the issue with WWE, I think what TKO is trying to do, and this is no inside information, but with the pumping of money that they're doing, and coming out and saying that Vince McMahon was catering to families, and we're going to price the families out. Screw it. He was missing money by not charging a lot more because Vince wanted people to take the families. You know why? Because Vince wanted another generation of wrestling fans. So, but TKO doesn't think that way. Clearly, they're just like, every single dollar you can get.
It's all about now.
And you know what I think they're trying to do, Jeremy? I think they are trying to plump it up. I think they are fattening the pig, so to speak. And they are just trying to pump that thing so full of cash they can sell it to the Saudis for a huge profit and get out of the wrestling business. And I think that's what TKO is probably trying to do. I think they want to sell it to the Saudis, who seem to want it to own it anyway. And
I'm not so naive to think that that's not impossible.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to dump it for a huge profit and just say, all right, where's the MMA company again? That's something we understand. You know, all these weirdos. I don't get it. I think that could be the move, really, is to just show all these profits and all this cash coming in. Just say, here you go, Saudi. It's all yours.
What makes it most frustrating about, like, all of these companies trying to put each other out of business and, you know, like, try to kneecap TV deals or make each other, like, wrestling is better in North America when there are two competing promotions forcing each other to be better. Yes. You may not like what they're doing, but the effort versus if there was only one promotion that was even remotely competitive at top would make this all so much worse.
It's one of those things where you want to tell people, if you want to see how bad this can be, go back to 2017 and 2018 WWE. Right. And just see how god awful that programming was when they weren't being pushed, when they could just sit back because you had to come to them. And ask the wrestlers if it's better, the people that have signed contracts since then, because there was nowhere else to go. So you took what WWE offered you. We should talk about New Japan at some point, shouldn't we?
I mean, it'll probably take about 5 minutes to talk about each show, so we're just trying to pad this thing out.
But this stuff's on my mind because I just think
I'm catering to it because I'm fine. I show up every Thursday and we talk pro wrestling, mostly New Japan. But the reality is it's a quiet week in New Japan, and this is situational stuff that will eventually have a fallout regarding New Japan. They're going to have to respond to it in some way, whether it's you know, talent isn't all of a sudden going anywhere and they're looking to get paid a little bit more that they don't have, or, you know, there's an increase in, like, the popularity of wrestling in Japan. All these things that could happen, but it's all going to happen in response to what's going on in North America.
All of this matters also in terms of New Japan's access to foreign talent.
Yes.
And that's a big deal. I mean, we've seen over and over again, usually the top foreigner is a very critical piece of the New Japan puzzle. And this is going to affect that. So this all matters. It all matters. I promise.
All right. What else we got?
Well, let's see. Let's go over the Taichi show here.
All right.
Very quickly. There's, like you said, there's not a lot. So Ishikari, they were in Ishikari. This is a small town on the west coast of Hokkaido. The population of Ishikari, Jeremy, 57,000. 57,000 people there. 871 of them went into a packed gym in Ishikari. I got to say, this looked like it was pretty much wall-to-wall people. And I want to read off as one. You know, I'm a venue nerd, right? I'm an arena nerd. All this stuff. The Ishikari Municipal Hanakawa Junior High School Gymnasium. So that is Taichi's middle school gym, which is where the show took place.
I definitely thought the basketball hoops tucked off to the side, off to the right, really drew to the ambiance of the show.
Yeah. And it had a nice atmosphere to it, didn't it? Yeah. And a very old school crowd. This was cheer the baby faces, boo the heels, and they were happy to see. When are they going to be in Ishikari again, right? So you got to, the people that were fans were into this thing. They put Masatori Yasuda over a JTO guy in the very first match. Yasuda's a Hokkaido guy, not Ishikari specific, but he's from the island of Hokkaido, so he got a win in the opener. And we're looking at a photograph here for the people who are listening to us as a podcast from the end of the show. And it is just babyface central here. You got Taichi in the middle with Yuya Uemura, Takumi Shinoku trying not to look too out of place, but it was his students, JTO, his wrestling school students who filled out the card here. So he was proud. He was a proud dad, even though he had to stay in character. Desperado, of course, Tanahashi, of course, and then two legends in Yuji Nagata and Satoshi Kojima that were part of things for everybody there. So they gave Kashima the win with a lariat in another match. There's a chance to see him and Nagata. There was a JTO girls tag team match. And again, that's their, I'm not trying to be dismissive by calling it, that is the name of the title, the girls tag team title. It's their youth title. I think it's either under 23 or under 25 title. Rhythm and Tomoko Inaba defeated Aoi and Azusa Inaba. In that
they are sisters in real life.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. They're both in Stardom as well for the most part. And then there was a trios match that involved some JTO talent with Takahashi, Yoda, and Daiki Nagai. JTO has some talent for sure. Really, a guy named Ryoma Tsukamoto was the only real green guy where you just thought this guy has talent but needs a little bit more seasoning. The others look pretty good. Bomber Tetsuya, Thunder Masami, and one of those things, JTO is a bit of a mystery. You don't get to see their shows very much. They don't pop up on any services, only occasionally on YouTube or whatever. So you don't get to see a lot of JTO, but the guy's got some good students. And semifinal was Desperado and Tanahashi against the House of Torture. That would be Dick Togo and Evil. So with Dick Togo there, you kind of see how this went.
Yeah.
And it was classic. I mean, you couldn't have been a more old school thing where it was just the heels get heat, the baby faces make a comeback and win in the end. I mean, it was just pro wrestling 101.
So, for me, like when I was watching this show, it definitely felt like you were watching like an indie show. Like you go to your local indie and there's a few stars there. There's between that energy and the energy of going to Battle in the Valley with New Japan, where you got a handful of the legitimate New Japan stars, but you also got a lot of the local talent, people like in US, it would be like West Coast talent, those kind of guys. But here you got the JTO and Takako group. But that's what the energy of this show was. It didn't feel like the biggest deal. The crowds were pretty similar. You draw like 1,000 to 1,500 at San Jose. They drew 850, 900 here at this show. Feels more intimate than it does like a big show, and you're getting just a very simple pro wrestling show. And that's why I felt like it was more like an indie, like an APW or your local like indie show where you're just like, you're getting just matches down the card. Nothing too complicated. Just you're in, you're out. Let's do it.
And then they had a trios match for the main event. Taichi, Takumi Chinoko, Yuya Uemura. So son of a just 4 guys, just 5 guys, just the 3 guys in this one.
Just a couple of guys.
Facing House of Torture, and that would be Doki Sanada and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. So you had all the guys. Really, if you look at all the just 4 guys, just 5 guys, all the guys were in this one. And again, classic good versus evil. Taichi did most of the selling. House of Torture interference. They brought back Tanahashi and Desperado to come back and help them out and run off the House of Torture, the bad guys in front of the home crowd. Taichi rallied with the pumping bomber, super kick, Black Mephisto to win. It's exactly what it should have been. So the hometown guy gets the win over the evil guys in his hometown there. Nagata and Kojima was out for the audience service and speeches. And afterwards, Taichi had a long exit, a lot of hugs, a lot of high fives. It seemed like he knew half the people in the crowd personally. as he left. So he got to do the whole Tanahashi thing where he was going around giving hugs and wiping his sweat on the towels. There were some moments when he stepped away and his face kind of lit up as he saw a familiar face, and he got to a couple of deep bows to people who seemed to be his elders or perhaps former teachers or whatever, people he knew. He looked like he was having a great time, and it just looked like a feel-good night and a bit of a morale boost for those there, because it was a crowd that was having fun, was into everything, and gave a very warm reception to the good guys at the end. I mean, that's all you could have wanted from this, right?
A regional show that pleased the region.
It did. Some interesting things. This town is small enough. Like I said, only 60,000 people. Taichi is listed as one of the notable people from Ishikari on Wikipedia. He's on the list.
Good for him.
Along with Mai, who's a J-pop singer. Some soccer players. That's football, Colin, I know. But some football players. And a Japanese professional baseball player also is on there. And a drummer, apparently. A snowboarder and things like that.
Taichi can tell his mom he's bona fide.
Do you know what Taichi's name is, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
Taichi?
Almost. Taichiro Maki.
Okay.
Taichiro
I was
Maki.
really close when I guessed Taichi. But
he just shortened it a little bit. He just knocked the R-O off. His last name, apparently, the family name anyway, Maki. Maki Taichiro is his full Japanese name.
I'm glad he gets these little victory laps. Taichi's been very loyal to New Japan.
Yeah, and I agree with you. As somebody who has just had a career renaissance late in life and has just become a beloved figure and a really, really good worker, too. Yep. I just think he's just a terrific guy, and that wasn't always true for him. He's, and it's kind of funny to look back on now that there was a time when Taichi wasn't considered one of the hardest working guys out there. I think he was just miscast as a junior. He was thinner back then, but I always said the issue with Taichi wasn't that he wasn't good. It was that he wasn't quick in a junior heavyweight division that depends on that boom, boom, boom speed. I mean, if you look at Taichi with Jushin Liger or with Kushida or with Hiromu, that's not the right mix. That's not the kind of, he's just not quick. And so when he bulked up, it wasn't that he was lazy. It's just that now he's working with heavyweights and his style suited everything so much better, because it really took off once he gave up on the idea of being a junior, and once they allowed him to, whichever one came first, whether he went to New Japan or New Japan went to him. Whoever did it, correct decision, because now he's a bona fide star and someone who can draw almost 1,000 basically off of just being in the main event in his hometown.
Speaking of finding the right mix of juniors for that division, we have the Super Junior Tag League, the first night of which is in the books, but the majority of this tournament is going to happen over the course of this next week. So not only do we have a show to review, we're really going to have to map this one out over the next 30 minutes before we get out of here. We did it kind of quickly last week, but there's 5 matches in each block. By the time the weekend's over, we're going to be halfway through. So you want to get to it?
Yeah, I do. Let's get to a couple of comments very quickly, though. Colin mentioned the Inaba sisters should be permanently in Stardom. By the way, they're both awesome. I think they are too. And Azusa is still a teenager, and it's just again part of that wave of young talent that Stardom has in front of it, and they're very good. JTO, boy, keep an eye on these guys. I think a lot of these guys are going to be popping up in bigger promotions soon, because like I said, only that one guy, Ryuma, looked like he was still kind of learning the dance steps a little bit and was a little green. But what he did do was fine. Just needs to grow a little bit. Nick is saying, when I got into NJPW in the late 2010s, during the late 2010s boom, I didn't care for Taichi, and I fell off after COVID. And it wasn't until getting back into NJPW the last 2 years that I really grew to appreciate him. I think what Nick just described here is kind of the career arc for the dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe for me and some of the people who stayed around during COVID, I think it was during the pandemic that he really started to blossom. It was when he got in there with the bruisers, like Ishii and who else am I thinking of there? Maybe Goto. Goto would bring it out of him a little bit. You started to see hints that, you know what, there's more here than I thought there was. But
he was a fantastic tournament wrestler in those years too. Like
yeah,
he was he really showed out when he had an arc of multiple matches that allowed him to show a little bit of range and give him some wins and losses. That's when he was really able to shine. The thing that I like to say about Taichi is that a lot of people punch out of their weight class, but Taichi is the rare person who actually punched into a weight class.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like that. I'll tell you another thing, Nick, that I liked, and everybody that I liked about Taichi before he really caught on in this. When he was still with Miho Abe, he'd bring out the former Miss Universe contestant to be, and she played this character that was, it was his muse as a singer and all this kind of stuff. And then she was just totally in love with Taichi and things. And they had a terrific act. And he was a heel like this. He was in Suzuki-gun back then. It was one of the few heel relationships that didn't play to the idea of it being a toxic or abusive relationship.
Right.
Randy Savage always hinted that he was violent toward Elizabeth off screen. Just to make you hate him. And every other kind of heel thing, one of them would sell the other down the river in a pinch, right? It's always that kind of thing. But when Dangerous Tekkers won the tag team titles, he didn't just ignore her now that he had finally reached that summit. She hugged him. He was smiling and hugging her, walked out with his arm around her. You got the idea that even though they were heels, they actually liked each other. And it was just so different in wrestling. You just didn't see it like that. No, those relationships are always portrayed as borderline abusive on the heel side. And yet, she's over there genuinely happy for them and they're happy with her and all that stuff. Colin's asking whatever happened to Miho. They kind of cut back on that. So you don't see Peter very much with Yujiro Takahashi. Miho ended up getting to slightly more adult stuff that maybe New Japan didn't want to really be a part of. So I'll leave you to look through her old Twitter for some of that stuff, but it's not safe for work. And I think she just kind of went a different career direction rather than being part of the New Japan thing. Just kind of went in a slightly more adult direction that maybe they weren't totally comfortable with. So
I call that not safe for marriage.
There you go. Maybe that's it. Yeah. Although Peter never was safe for work, but they brought her out all the time. But
a literal dress like a Playboy bunny and then draw your own conclusions.
That is she's wow. Anyway, Peter, she's still around though every once in a while. And
she was in the Shinichi champion stuff.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, so she still pops up every now and then.
Yeah,
but
she was thirsty for show. It was wild.
Was that what it was? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she was super thirsty for him. She's like, "Hey, he's the handsome man I pick." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, the handsome battle royal, of course.
Right.
All right. So night one of the Super Junior tournament, tag team tournament, took place at Korakuen Hall, and I made a little joke that not too many people noticed, but Jeremy, 1,056. Yikes! That's a weak Korakuen Hall crowd, boy. And they're back there again tomorrow. So this could be interesting to see how that one goes.
You watch that show, you get why they didn't show up.
Oh, boy. All right. So let's talk about it. We had one preview match. So again, there are only 10 teams in the tournament, 2 blocks of 5. So 5 matches takes care of the entire field. They needed to throw something in. And we got a little bit of a preview of the Gifu match between Yota Tsuji and Hiroshi Tanahashi to kick things off. So Shingo teamed up with Yota to face Tanahashi, and it was supposed to be Katsuya Murashima. However, we found out that Murashima got the flu, and he was replaced by Zane J. In the end, it was the War special from Shingo Takagi, which is a move he doesn't do very often. Didn't even bother to bring out Last of the Dragon or anything for Zane J. And got the submission on that.
Biggest match of Zane J's career.
Yeah, I suppose it was. It was cool to see him in there with Shingo, and he had to be excited about being in there with
Absolutely.
Shingo.
He was motivated.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to go over this? There's only one show, so we just go over the matches and then do the standings, you think?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I got I have the standings, and then I have the schedule. We just kind of map out the AP.
Excellent. All right. So the first match of the tournament was the champions, Doki and Sho, they led off against United Empire, this being Jacob Austin Young and Templario. So Francesco Akira was doing commentary with Chris Charlton, And if you want to know what's going on with United Empire, if there was anything that commentary told me, Jeremy, is that the wrestlers don't know either. Because Francesco Akira had no idea what to say to Chris Charlton when he asked about United Empire. And it wasn't a language barrier thing. Akira's English is pretty solid, but it's clear that they don't know the direction yet either. And I'm sure that maybe the front office has one, especially concerning Okan and things. But they pointed in zero directions and gave zero hints. If there is a direction for United Empire, I don't think Akira is in on it yet.
I don't think anybody's in on it. Like,
I don't think so either.
TJP is now doing like coaching at the Performance Center, so he wasn't brought back for this one. This definitely feels like the budget version of the Super Junior Tag League. You know, you have a lot of inexpensive talent to bring forward, and also you've got Akira doing commentary rather than Walker being flown out. You know, so there are certain cues here that make you think that like they are just doing shows to fulfill programming at this point. And I'm not necessarily sure even the winner of this tournament is going to have like a direct through line to Wrestle Kingdom. I think they'll probably wrap whatever the story this is up before we even get there.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Anyway, in the first match, House of Torture defeated United Empire. Templario got a nice showcase in this match. That's really what this match was, is a way to show off Templario. Good guy to show off. He's outstanding, of course. But Doki ended up winning it with his backslide, with his feet up on the ropes. Referee Sakamoto didn't see it. It was a decent enough match to start the tournament off, but they were keeping things moving. Most of these matches, until the last two, were hovered around the 10-minute mark.
It felt competitive, but it also didn't feel like much. It was kind of that weird, like, hey, we're just gonna warm you up for the tournament, and then they spent the entire show warming you up.
Colin's asking why was Walker not there. I think it was because they just didn't fly him out for it. I think he's going to be back for Gifu, is my impression. But I don't think that they put Walker. I just don't think they wanted to pay Walker to be there. And that's not an insult to Walker. Like Jeremy said, this is kind of being done on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like a whole lot of money is being dumped into this tournament. We remember Ninja Mac was supposed to be in this, and then he's like, I'm not in this tournament anymore. So like at some point they're like, you know, we're not getting a whole lot of sales for this show. We're gonna kind of, you know, downscale a little bit. That's what
you got Dragon's Gate guys and some DDT talent in here and things, and guys who are happy for the work.
Character work, you know, like we have a couple matches and then it's just all character stuff, so it's fine.
Yeah, you're right. And some of these teams are more about, I'm trying to, like you said, character work is a good way to put it, but it's not so much. Each of these blocks feels like there are two teams that are actually contending and everybody else is telling a side story.
Yes. Like you've already kind of sniffed out where this is going kind of thing. And it's the middle school version of a complex tournament.
Up next, we have the Bullet Club War Dogs against House of Torture. That's Dick Togo and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. The War Dogs team, Ishimori and Robbie X. Excellent tag team. Those two have been together. Not very many matches, but boy, they're good. This gave it away early is that after House of Torture won the first match, it was all House of Torture early in this one and most of the match, which meant you knew it was coming, which we were going to get the big babyface comeback. And sure enough, despite getting sprayed with the whiskey mist and getting locked in double submissions, there was a very simple babyface rally, comeback. Robbie X hit a big move off the top onto Dick Togo and got the babyface win in 10 minutes.
The whole War Dogs being babyfaces is still a little weird to me. Like, they're just out and out, like, good guys here. We're looking at much to this match. Decent amount of speed, good amount of work rate. You know, I like seeing Robbie X as a babyface. You know, the babyface in peril move spot for him actually worked out really, really well. So I feel like we're going to get a little bit of kicking the tires on that. And this may not be for a long time, but this whole babyface War Dogs, I'm here for a good time.
Remember, you got to be careful with that phrase, Jeremy. You kick the tires too hard, Clark Connor's going to come after you.
Oh, wheelie.
It's his best friend. Yeah. Wheel-san. Tire-san is still there.
Speaking of.
Yes, he was in the next match. Now, this was the character work we talked about. This next match was mostly character work. So you had the mishmash that is unaffiliated and War Dogs, where they had a member of each faction on each side. So War Dog Ghetto with unaffiliated Hiromu teaming up as the odd couple tag team of the tournament. facing Clark Connors and Daiki Nagai. And this was early offense was Hiromu basically whipping Gedo into guys. And this was all about Hiromu and Gedo and how they would get along. They teased the dissension when Hiromu hit a super kick, but Nagai got out of the way and he clobbered Gedo. But when they got up in each other's faces and Hiromu grabbed his beard and all that, Gedo called for Connors to help him. When Connors went over to help Gedo and they went, War Dogs for life, Gedo pulled Connors aside with his arm around him while Hiromu grabbed the Gedo clutch on Daiki Nagai and pinned him while Connors was distracted. So it was one of those things where the wily veterans outfoxed the young guys and got the win. And then there was kind of a funny thing afterwards where Gedo was, just saying, "Oh, I didn't mean to do all that. Thank you for helping me out. We're bros." And then he would kind of turn over to Hiromu and kind of give him the thumbs up, like, "Hey, we got him, didn't we?" So a little bit of silliness, a little bit of character work. I think that's going to be the story of the tournament, is Hiromu and Gedo kind of being this wacky odd couple team that either lives by the sword or dies by the sword, but is going to be doing their tricks, their little tricks, all of Gedo's little bits of hook and crook to get wins. And then sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not, but it'll always be interesting to see how they try to trick the other team.
This was stupid. This was fun. This was silly. This was exactly what I expected the Hiromu and Gedo matches to be like in this tournament. The one thing that I will say is I wasn't expecting their chemistry to be such where when this is all said and done and eventually Gedo, is going to turn heel again and, New Japan needs his own, I kind of want Hiromu to go with him.
Yeah, it might be a good change of pace for Hiromu.
Just kind of make him that kind of wily, like old school villain that holds everyone down in the junior heavyweight division. Just kind of a little change of pace and whatever like idea of a faction they have for heels, like traditional heels that aren't House of Torture. Yeah, that feels like a good next chapter for Hiromu that can kind of reinvigorate him. And when I was watching this match, that's what I was starting to think about.
It might be a smart move because with Hiromu's injuries and age both piling up especially the injuries over the last several years, Hiromu might need to move toward the wily veteran thing rather than compete in those super athletic battles
all the time.
After that one, we had Kushida and Yuki Yoshioka. This is one of the guys from the Gate there, defeating Tiger Mask and Yamato. That's Dragon's Gate guy, Yoshioka. Usually the tag. Yeah, he did. Usually the tag team partner of Dragon Dia, by the way, in that promotion, as was mentioned by Chris. And they faced Tiger Mask and Yamato. Armbar finish. Kushida beat Tiger Mask here. The focus was again on the new guys, and that was the pattern most of the night. And you see that in New Japan tournaments whenever there's somebody new or a guest coming in for a tournament. The first night, they really put the shine on them just to show you that, hey, look at what we got, new guy. And that's what Yuki Yoshioka and Yamato were doing in this one. They carried most of this. And but the new guys did well. And I'll tell you what, Jeremy, Kushida not only looks ageless, he looks exactly the same age he was. He looks the same as he did 15 years ago. He doesn't necessarily work exactly the same, but he's still pretty spry for his age. He stayed in he's still pretty quick. He's still pretty agile and just doesn't seem to age at the same rate as other humans.
It's weird that the guy with the time machine seems ageless, right?
It's becoming more apropos all the time, though. I mean,
well,
he
does look the same as he did like 10 years ago, and he wrestles a style that allows him, he's not as fast as he used to be. He doesn't jump as high, but the things that he can do well, like that stuff is almost, evergreen.
Yeah, and he's smart about working the MMA and submission stuff in because you don't need the he's just not as explosive as he used to be, but you don't have to be when you know how to work the submissions and things. So he's very smart about that. The semifinal was Master Wato and Yo against Dragon Dia and Ryusuke Taguchi. A lot of comedy here. And a lot of it was, if you like Taguchi, you'll love this match because it was a lot of Taguchi wackiness. It was also worked at a pretty slow pace, I thought. Like a lot of the first part of the match was just very slow pace, just not hurrying, not running a lot, not doing a lot. Until Dragon Dia picked it up a little bit later. The last couple of minutes of this, which went 17 minutes, the last couple of minutes were good, but I think you could probably skip the first 15 and still get the idea. Wato and Yo won this one with a double team move. It was a kick to the back and then a form of the Ushigoroshi that Yo landed and got the pin on Dragon Dia.
Falcon blow, like a falcon arrow, but a kick to the back when you're delivering it. So.
Yeah, that's what Chris called it. So there you go. Again, Wato and Yo, one of the teams we actually think will contend for this one. Most of the other teams have a guy you can kind of see taking pinfalls.
The weird thing about this is this feels like a middle of the tournament match where a guy is kind of getting a night off, but it was also the semi-main, and it was also the first night of the tournament. So it felt like Yo and Wato weren't working as hard because they knew they had harder nights coming up.
Yeah.
But being on the semi-main, kind of, sorry, you got to go to work, guys.
Their big A block match will be against Doki and Sho. That one's going to matter. I think, by the way, Jacob Austin Young and Templario against Yo and Wato will probably be sneaky good.
Yes.
Just because of everybody involved. And then, they also have, Connors and Nagai will also probably be a pretty decent match. But really, it's a one-match tournament for Wato and Yo, and it's against the champs, Doki and Sho.
Yeah. All right, we got one more to go before we preview the rest of this.
Ichiban Sweet Boys, Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles face El Desperado and Kukai. This is the main event. Went almost 20 minutes. It was the best match of the night, although that's mostly by default, as the others weren't really trying to be all that great.
But they showed up.
They did. It was a good match. The pin was on Kukai. They have a new finisher, which I can barely even describe, but it looked pretty nasty. In that it was safe. It was safe. And I'm not trying to say. It looked
like they were both holding him for a time bomb and then dropping him.
Yeah, and they did it in a way that was safe, but I don't know the name of this one. Maybe Chris will have it for us next time. The other thing I noticed, Jeremy, going against type, no upsets on day one, really. It's the teams you thought would win all these matches won them. But, again, 5 tournament matches, you can't really put a team behind the 8 ball too much because, the tournament will be over. You don't have as many matches for them to come back. So,
a lot of these felt like they were the chalk winners, but also to set up some math for the very end.
Yeah, that's very true. So looking ahead, here's what's coming up this week. A very busy week of junior tag action. Friday, October 24th, tomorrow, Korakuen Hall again. Dragon Dia and Taguchi will face Sho and Doki. Yoshioka and Kushida versus Robbie X and Taichi Ishimori. Could very well be the best match. That is the semifinal. It's another show where all 5 matches will be tournament matches, all 10 teams getting a second match in. So busy night of Korakuen. Then we will move on to Saturday in Saitama. So okay, let's look at the teams there. Basically, again, Yo and Master Wato with 2 points. Hiromu and Geto have 2 points. Sho and Doki have 2 points in the A block. So that's what we've got there. And then looking ahead, mentioned again at Korakuen, Saturday Saitama. So staying in the Tokyo metro area, it'll be Geto and Hiromu versus Sho and Doki. Wato and Yo versus Templario and Young should be pretty good.
Yeah. Today and the show that will air immediately after this show airs are all block matches, and then everything after that is just A block or B block, A block or B block, right?
I think it's kind of alternating a little bit more. It's like 3 tournament matches a night because, again, with the 5 tournament matches per round, so to speak, it doesn't balance out. But
it's A block one night, B block the other on these. Right?
I don't believe it is. I'm gonna look at that. Yeah, I'm gonna look at that. I got
them right here. So the B block will end on November 1st with and then the A block actually ends on the 30th, I believe.
Oh, I see your point. Okay, excuse me, Jeremy. I see what you mean. There will not be both blocks. It'll be
A block action or B block action on every night.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying. I stumbled over that, but you're right. Yes, it's yeah.
Okay, so you can kind of math it out and you can look at it, and I think the A block matches might not be as good as the B block matches. I think the A block is going to end up being a little bit more smoke and mirrors and a little bit of show. Like that final night with Doki and Sho versus Yo and Master Wato, I think is going to be one of the best matches in the tournament. But there's a whole lot to get to that point that I'm not necessarily sure about. You know,
by the way, earlier I said that there are 5 tournament matches, that there are 12 teams. I said 10 teams in the tournament. That's wrong. That math ain't mathin'. There are 12 teams, which means they have 5 tournament matches. Sorry, apparently I haven't had the caffeine and I need to do this.
I applaud you holding yourself accountable. In my mind, everything made sense, so I was just
oh, good. So, 12 teams, 5 tournament matches. There you go.
So
Steven.
yeah, in the A block here, it comes down to that match with Yo and Master Wato and Doki and Sho to me.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Taguchi and Dragon Dia and Hiromu and Geto on that last night, and I don't see it. And the other one would be Clark Connors and Daiki Nagai versus Templario and Young. And they like Clark Connors, but they don't love him. And I don't see TMDK getting any kind of love.
Well, in that match alone, you have 2 guys who basically, Nagai is so young, he takes the losses for unaffiliated, and Jacob Austin Young is in that spot that Callum Newman used to occupy for United Empire of taking all of the falls for UE. So I don't anticipate those 2 teams just being in a position to contend at the end.
Right. Yeah. So if your back was against the wall, would it be Yo and Master Wato or Doki and Sho?
I think it would be Yo and Wato to set up something for later.
Yeah, I think it would probably be Yo and Master Wato defeating Doki and Sho. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're both like win and get in kind of thing, and they both get to like 4-1 as a result of that, and then the tiebreaker gets them in. But it should give them a title shot before the other team or whatever, and maybe they're all in a Wrestle Kingdom match together.
And the other side, the B block, clearly comes down to Eagles and Fujita versus Ishimori and X. And that they meet each other on the last day. Those are the 2 best teams in the block. I don't know which way I'd go on this one. I think both teams are outstanding. So I think we're winning either way on that one. But I don't see Robbie X and Ishimori winning the tournament.
No.
But I think they might make the finals to shake things up. It could also be Eagles and Fujita versus Yo and Wato. That could very well be the final.
I'm leaning towards the Eagles and Fujita. They've been very quiet with that team, and they're far and away like the most established team in this tournament. You could do something with Taichi, Ishimori, and Robbie X. Robbie X hasn't been around. You haven't established him. You're more building him up right now rather than putting him in that like spot on the final homecoming for Hiroshi Tanahashi. But if you put Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita versus Yo and Master Wato on that card, that's a banger match.
And the finals will be in Gifu, correct?
Yeah, it's on November 2nd. Probably 2nd or 3rd from the top.
Yeah. All right. So once again, we're Friday, Korakuen Hall, Saturday in Saitama, Sunday, another show in Onuma, which is a town of only 35,000 people, Jeremy. This is a small town. They're hitting some small places here. On Tuesday, October 28th, they are in Sado, which is an island off the coast. Holds about 48,000 people total. So not expecting huge crowds just because they're just going to some relatively small towns. Wednesday, October 29th, even smaller. They're in a place called Shibata, which is just south of Sendai. And then October 30th in Fukui. That's Thursday. Nagai and Connors versus Young and Templario on top there. So when we come back next week, we will have a lot of tournament matches to talk about, and only about one night of block action left, and then the Tanahashi show. So we'll have 2 shows to preview and a bunch of shows to recap. Yeah. Back to the grind, my friend. Back to the grind. I appreciate everybody's patience with sitting through. I know we talked about a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily specific to New Japan, but there's a changing landscape in pro wrestling in a lot of ways. The way companies work together, and also with the way that WWE is trying to control the narrative of professional wrestling for the next few years. All this stuff if there's one thing I've learned from writing my site, Ringside Replay, that history and around, is that everything affects everything. And I mean, nothing happens in a vacuum. So if all of these things are changing the landscape, that landscape changes in Japan as well. And I thought it was worth talking about here this week.
I'm with you. I mean, like we're sitting here and we are 75, 80 days away from Wrestle Kingdom, and they have one match announced. We have a Super Junior tournament that seems like, they're being very frugal about. And we have a show to do about pro wrestling in New Japan, and New Japan isn't really bringing a whole lot to the table here. So next week should be better, but I'm not really going to apologize about the fact that we are trying to discuss things that are relevant to New Japan, and they may not seem so immediately relevant in the immediate future.
Yeah, I think it's going to be relevant there in the near future, though. And Colin is asking, do you worry when Tanahashi becomes president on a full-time basis after his January 4th retirement? Attendances have been poor, as has the booking. Do I worry? Yeah. I don't. Oh, I do. Yeah, there's Wrestle Kingdom is going to do well because big retirements always do well. Remember, even when Noah was kind of on its rear end, the Muta retirement show, which had a lot of New Japan talent on it, to be fair, did pretty well. Like the Muta retirement show did all right for Noah. Yeah, I'm concerned. Like I said, Kingdom will do well. The trend has been the opposite direction for New Japan otherwise. And it's going to be incumbent upon President Tanahashi and his booking committee, but he is going to be considered the guy in charge. This is going to be Tanahashi's era. Whoever else is working behind the scenes, Yano, Dick Togo, all those guys, people are going to define Tanahashi's presidency by what happens on the box office. It's going to come back on Tana. From what I have seen so far, anything involving anything non-Hiroki Goto involved over the last year, kind of been a bit of a wreck. Am I worried? Yeah, I am a little bit as to what happens in 2026. It is critical that they set the company up with new talent in an interesting direction going into 2026, coming out of that Tokyo Dome. You are going to have a lot of eyeballs on that show. You've got to give him a reason to come back. And
yeah, I agree.
If he falls on his face with that part of it, then 2026 could be very difficult for New Japan. Could be very difficult.
Yeah, that's got to be a heck of a show, and they have to have a plan. And come January 5th, there aren't any old guys to lean on anymore. Like you're going to have Goto, but he wasn't the guy that carried a promotion for the entire generation before. Naito's gone, Tanahashi's gone, Okada's gone, Nakamura's gone. They're all gone. It's like you're going to have to start this is the time that those new stars that you said you're going to be building in 2021 over a 3-year plan, and we're into year 5, it's time. I believe that once year back is against the wall, we're going to get better stuff than we're offered now, because clearly the priority has been closing a door, not opening it.
They have got to get moving on those things, Jeremy. And these people that are allegedly the next generation, let's keep this in mind too. They're closer to 30 than they are to 20. It has taken that long. And part of that was the pandemic, yes, delaying things and all that. But Uemura, Tsuji, Shota Umino, and Ren Narita, whoever else you want to say from that generation of guys that look like they have so much potential and still do, but they're almost 30 years old. They're pushing, they're over 25. Yeah, it's taking too long. You don't have forever. Got to get on this. Got to get on it.
I'm with you. All right, what else we got?
Well, quickly, apparently we're going to have to suffer through a House of Torture event in the near future here. So there is a purge.
They're giving to me.
And I guess this is going to be a pay-per-view, a House of Torture theme pay-per-view. As if we aren't having enough trouble, they are going to throw it back to NWO Sold Out here. So, this is a purge night of torture on November 19th at Korakuen Hall. So why not throw another pay-per-view at us? And in addition, try to get every dime they possibly can. I'm not looking forward to this, Jeremy. Are you?
Well, I don't know if you can look forward to it. What week are you out of here for?
Sadly, I'll be back for this one.
Oh, okay, because I'm going to have a fill-in. I'm going to have a fill-in guest, but this is on a Wednesday night. So not only do you have to watch it, you have to rush watch it if you want to cover it for the show. Well, you are literally going to be placed in your house to watch this, and it's going to be torture for you, Steven.
But the only thing we know so far is that Eva will be facing Shun Skywalker.
Yes. Cool. I'm here for that.
All right. And let's see, what else did we have? Do we have anything else? Are there any other events? And obviously, next week we'll be talking about the action that comes off of Super Juniors. We will be previewing the big Gifu show with Tanahashi versus Yota Tsuji for the global title, the world title match with Takeshita and Hiroki Goto. This is the show that basically has replaced Power Struggle for this year. Anyway, they're just going with this Tanahashi homecoming show instead of Power Struggle.
Works for me, boss.
All right.
Yeah, I got nothing else. I thank you everybody who joined us in the chat.
Yeah, thanks guys. Fernando Zayas, it was good to see you there too. I didn't mention your name yet, but I'm glad you were here. Colin, of course, Nick Reeves, and who else we have here? We had a couple others here. War Hero was here. Glad to see you. And we had USVA guy, of course, Jesse Hyde as well. Anybody that watches us live, we're grateful to you. Anybody that watches us, listens to us later, watches us here on YouTube, thank you for your time. We know you have a lot of choices. We're grateful you spend some with us. So,
yes, sir.
With that, we're going to sign off for this week. We will be back in a week. I'm Steven Conway. That's Jeremy Finestone. This has been Speaking of Strong Style, and we will talk to you again real soon.